we employed the quantitative and qualitative data collection methods so that we can get enough information in order to make varied conclusions. Of course, we used the questionnaires and some structured interviews with educators, industry stakeholders who formed the qualitative strand. So the educators are the people here who were interviewed, and the industry stakeholders because they give us the feedback of how our graduates are performing out there and how well are they doing in terms of employability. And then data analysis was done by SPSS, and then using a descriptive study of chi-square, and then it went through a thematic analysis in order to interpret the information. And then in our research, sampling and target population, sampling was done using different methods. We used the stratified sampling and the purposive sampling on different groups of people who were involved in the research. So as you can see from the table, we had the students, the educators, and the industry stakeholders. We took these three groups or categories because we believe these are the people who can give us the exact information of what is happening out there. For the students, they will tell us how well the curriculum is doing, or how relevant is it, or how much it's helping them. And then the educators will tell us whether it's working, because they are the people who have the first-hand experience from the classroom. And then the industry stakeholders, now these are the people who are going to employ our graduates. They will tell us whether the people are producing high quality and they're meeting the market expectations. And then the results and discussion. We have this discussion was done on different areas. Number one is the employability and the skill acquisition. So under employability and skill acquisition, under employability and skill acquisition, as you can see, under improved job readiness, there's a high percentage of frequency on how these graduates are going out there who are ready to go into the job market. There's enhanced practical skills, career prospects are boosted, and increased confidence in the workplace and tasks, and alignment in training with the field work. So as you can see, all these are the things you can consider you as an industry stakeholder when you want to employ somebody. And as you can see from the curriculum, if all these are working well, then it means you are delivering to the industry stakeholders, you are delivering graduates who can meet the market standards. And then from there is employer satisfaction. And employer satisfaction here, we are looking at how satisfied are the industry stakeholders with our graduates. Yes, we have used this curriculum in class, we were industry-based, and then how well are the industry satisfied with the people we are giving out with our output. And as you can see, under the satisfaction, we looked at different indicators. Number one is graduates who possess the necessary technical skills, which are very important when it comes to employment. Graduates who meet prescribed job requirements, because in any job advert, there's requirements which an individual has to meet for us to be employed. And as you can see from the indicator, the graduates who come out from this curriculum, they of course meet the required job requirements. And then overall satisfaction with graduates, this is how well are the employer comfortable with our graduates who have gone through this curriculum. And then how well the graduates demonstrate adequate problem-solving ability. Remember, life is a problem-solving adventure. And in whatever we do in our life, at one point, we are solving a given problem. So when you give the graduates out there, what you are looking at, their performance is in solving the life problems. Because by the end of the day, in whatever you do in life, we are looking at how well can you solve the problems you are facing. And then graduates who exhibit professional workplace conduct. How ethical are our graduates? how well can they be able to work with the professional standards and ethics that are required by the employers out there. And then we have implementation challenges. Of course, this curricula has different challenges which we are facing, which we cannot be able to avoid. Number one, which we looked at in our research, is difficulty in continuously updating curricula to reflect the industry changes. As we know, especially in technology, everything is changing. Even those people doing technical courses, new machines are coming up. New strategies are coming up on how to work. So it means we need to upgrade our curriculum to be in line with the changes we are experiencing in the market. So this is a challenge we have in TVET institutions to ensure that our curriculum can be able to be at par with the changes which are coming up in different sectors. And then insufficient practical training facilities and equipment. As you know, in our training in TVET, we need machines, we need many other resources which need money or which need resources for them to be effective. So you find that these facilities are needed and some other TVETs cannot be able to get those resources so that they can be able to do well and come up with the graduates who meet the standards in the market. And then limited formal mechanisms for industry academia engagement. Of course here, when talk of formal mechanisms here, is how formal are we being in engaging the industry, especially in terms of MOUs on how they can help us train and all that. And then inadequate funding for curriculum development initiatives. Of course, most of the institutions have not done so well when it comes to funding the curriculum development. And then shortage of industry qualified teaching personnel. We don't have enough people who are qualified, and as you can see from the figures, it's not doing so well. And then lastly, we have the conclusion and recommendations. So we concluded that the results are supported by the mixed evaluation, and majority of the students report good results, especially from Kisii National Polytechnic, which was our case study. And then we need to enhance our relationship with the industry stakeholders so that we can enhance our effectiveness. Then we made recommendations from the research. One of the recommendations is establishing permanent industry advisory boards, which I guess some of the institutions have. I'm not so sure, but I know we have such in Kisii National Polytechnic, which helps in curriculum evaluation, and then even employment monitoring. I think that's why in institutions we have even tracer studies to see how well our graduates are doing out there. And then we have dedicated curriculum review in conducting annual updates. Of course, the curriculum need to be updated, need to be reviewed to meet the changes out there. And then increasing expenditure and practical training. Remember, if you need to do well in practicals, then resources are involved. Then you have to do well on that. And then implement industry practitioners secondment programs, as in modeled in Germany and Switzerland, and in TVET institutions in those countries. And then develop a graduate tracer study, of which I've mentioned, and helping the employer surveys, and also work with VET and the Ministry of Education to increase curriculum flexibility. So that is it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's again appreciate our presenter. Asante sana. Thank you. Thank you for the insights. Karibu. Asante.
Hello everyone, my name is George Nyamweya. I'm a trainer at Kisii National Polytechnic, and I'm a trainer of environmental sciences and geographical information system. So my topic is from virtual to field, and that is assessing the skill transfer from simulation to on-site natural resource monitoring among Kisii National Polytechnic students, specifically students who are undertaking environmental science course. So that is the overview of my presentation. That's basically my overview, introduction, methodology, and also all the others, including conclusion and recommendations. So my research context, which is also going to cover the gap, is that simulation-based learning is a pedagogical strategy that has been used in many TVETs and also in many parts of the world. But as we know, simulation-based learning has majorly been used in the fields of healthcare, engineering, and aviation. We all know that pilots have to undergo several hours in a simulator before they are given a license to fly a real plane. But in the field of natural resource monitoring and in the field of environment, there is limited information, and there is a research gap in that field, and there are many conclusive studies that show how simulation can be used in monitoring natural resources. So and that is where the foundation of my study is built. And basically my objectives will be to measure changes in students' practical performance in field monitoring tasks. That is after a simulation-based learning. Then we'll also be able to evaluate the knowledge and confidence of the students. We were able to evaluate the knowledge and students related to natural resource monitoring. Then identify the contextual barriers influencing the transfer of learning from simulations to on-site practice. Basically, we were to measure, or we measured students' ability to do practical items, that is after the simulation. We also measured their knowledge and skills, as well as their confidence after the simulation. So my theoretical framework is grounded on 4 key theories, one of them being situated learning theory, which stipulates that for an activity to yield transfer, it has to be similar to real field activity that is supposed to be done. Like if you are doing a simulation activity, it has to be as close as possible to the real field experience. So that's one of my theories. And then the other one was cognitive load theory. And in this theory, basically based on the literature, we saw that it is good to have the activities procedurally arranged so that the students could not be overloaded with knowledge. So we tried to reduce the knowledge overload, and by ensuring that the activities were arranged in a systematically or in chunks, so as to allow the students to gain knowledge and skills incrementally. Then there is the transfer of training theory, which basically specifically looks at near and far transfer. In our case, we looked at near transfer because we realized that if we want these students to gain from simulation and apply the skills out in the field, we have to ensure that near transfer is taken into consideration. In simple terms, we have to ensure that the activities that they are conducting have some similarity in terms of how they are conducted to those activities that will be done in the field. Then there is the self-efficacy theory, and that is the student confidence. We also measured that, how confident will be the students before simulation and after the simulation. So the study employed a quasi-experimental methodology, and this was done for 3 weeks. and it covered 6 items. The first item that they were tested on before, during the simulation, and after the simulation was on scenario-based desktop simulation. Then they were also tested on GIS and remote sensing experiences. That is before the simulation, after the simulation, and before the simulation, during the simulation, and after the simulation. Then there were some role plays. The students also participated in use of GPS and sampling techniques, that is before, during, and after the simulation. So basically, the methods that we used for data analysis include the paired t-test. We also used the Cohen's D, that is used to measure the pre-test and post-test, and it also helps to see how big the effect is. Apart from that, we employed what we call inter-rater reliability through the inter-class correlation test. The inter-class correlation test was employed to ensure that when I was rating the students, there was another rater who was also rating them, so that I am not biased in form of the marks that I give the students. So those are the statistical measures that were used. Specifically, I used Stata in my analysis, and based on the analysis, I'll take you to the conceptual framework. Our input simulation intervention activities included scenario-based desktop simulations, QGIS and WebGIS remote sensing exercises. We also used role play and equipment walkthroughs. The students were given GPS gadgets for simulation. The GPS device, they were shown how to use it. They simulated field work using the GPS gadget. They also simulated using the digital pH meter and digital GPS gadgets, so that we could see whether they could understand how to use them in a simulated environment. That way, their self-efficacy improved, so they were able to gain confidence in terms of how to use the devices. We ensured that the rubrics were aligned to the task, and we used 6 weeks of structured lessons over 2 to 3 weeks. And then the process mechanisms included the effective inactive mastery, schema formation, situated task practice, structured debriefing, and near and far transfer. And the results, based on the results, we measured 4 key items. The fourth key was basically for ensuring that there is validity and reliability. The first one was the measurement of performance in the field. After performance, we also measured knowledge, because we realized that knowledge is also key. Apart from, as much as some people say that knowledge is not very useful, but knowledge is key to practical. So if you just measure knowledge and if you just measure practical and you don't measure knowledge, there'll be a gap in the use of various instruments or field-based activities. So we were also able to measure knowledge. Apart from that, we measured self-efficacy, which is basically how confident were the students, or how confident were the students when they were having the activities. So the tools that we used for the 3 of these include: one, we used for the practical activity, we used a checklist that had a score of 100. So the 2 of the facilitators, that is me and another facilitator, we were able to use that tool. Challenge assessment was to measure how well they understood the concepts. Then finally, we gave them a self-efficacy test where they were rating from 1 to 5 how they felt about the use of various tools, before, during, and after. Now the results are such. We have, for the field performance, which is out of 100, in the pre-test they scored 53.65, and in the post-test they scored 70.15. For the knowledge score, which had 25 items, in the pre-test they scored 14.35, and in the post-test they scored 19.9. Then for self-efficacy, which was a self-administered
1 minute.
rating scale, so they were able to gain 53. So basically, from here, what can we say? What were the enablers of transfer? We also employed a qualitative study because it was quasi-experimental study, including a mixed method. So we realized that the simulation fidelity plays a role. Apart from that, structured feedback also plays a key role in transfer of training. Then also instructor debriefing was also one of the key items that was found out. So another key thing, so in the discussion, we were able to look at the 3 areas of performance, that is the 4 areas, and we realized that they were close to what we have in education research. We aligned well with the education research, that is in self-efficacy, field performance gains, and knowledge and cognitive load. And then what were our conclusions and contribution to the knowledge is that high simulation to field transfer is achievable with lower technology tools. You don't have to use VR gadgets, VR and VR, virtual reality, and all those other gadgets to do simulation. You can still do it in the desktop and achieve results. Then simulation-based learning is particularly powerful for learners with minimal prior experience. Then contextual barriers still play a key role in the TVET sector. That include lack of materials for doing simulation. So our recommendations include for the institutions or practitioners. We also have recommendations for the national TVET policy and for future research. So I'll conclude with this key quote that simulation-based learning, thoughtfully designed, closely aligned with authentic field tasks, and supported by instructor-led debriefing, represents a viable and potentially transformative pedagogical strategy for natural resource monitoring education and in low-resourced TVET contexts, not just in healthcare or aviation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Let us celebrate. Let us laud them for that presentation. We appreciate that much more. Much of the presentations here are or have been based on the inclusion of AI in instruction and delivery of content. We want to thank you, George, as well as your virtual reality. Quite a number of us have mismated the idea of AI, artificial intelligence, or what I may deem as virtual intelligence, to be an alternative intelligence, such that it becomes a replacement to the human intelligence. That is okay. I observed a few things. Number one, the slides were crowded. There was much crowding on the slides, and so that is an area that you'd wish that you address. You spoke of structured lessons. Then my question would now arise. Which specific learning area did you target in your research? You are a specialist in GIS, but which specific area did you target in your learning? Then, in terms of virtual reality, I would like us to pick on how we can make it applicable for a practical class, such that the skills can be transferable virtually. And so, how do you accommodate the practical lessons we are showcasing? I've seen works in plumbing. I've seen aspects of food science and all that. that is one area. Then the other concern is, how do we accommodate people living with disabilities, either the virtually handicapped or those who have the auditory disabilities when it comes to simulation? Because if one may not be able to factor in the virtual aspects, then the issue of applicability and efficacy will be compromised. That is my issue over that. The same remark about the crowding of the slide is with Peter, and you spoke about the industry-driven curricula in TVET, a case study of the Kisii National Polytechnic. And you spoke about the job readiness. What is the readiness quotient from your research? Now that you've been doing training, or hypothetically, what did you put as the readiness quotient in this area? That is one thing that I have to mention. Then back to the pharmacist. I appreciate your work in the water hyacinth, and that it has a potential as a reducer of cancer-related cases or the carcinogenics. I didn't know that the polycyclic aromatics, of course, when I've talked about aromatics, you know I understand a bit of chemistry. I didn't know that they miss the benzene ring. I've only realized that I'm seeing the CH double bond. The CH double bond, skip, CH double bond, skip. That is what I've realized in this polycyclic HCs. Then I've been concerned about the location of our car wash, especially along rivers and lakeshore. It has been my concern. Probably you may posit a remedy for that. Then, fine. Are there varieties of hyacinth? Or it is just the same type? The hyacinth of the Ovosiri is the same one at Wichilum, and the same one at Donga. Are there varieties of hyacinth? That is my concern. Then I've learned this name, that it is Hyacinthus orientalis. The Hyacinthus orientalis, I'm told it has been there for the last 4,000 years. And because you began from the Bible, I would also like to refer to two Bible verses before I raise my question. Number one, which I have to start with, is the book of Ezekiel chapter 47 and verse 12. Ezekiel chapter 47 verse 12. The sacred word says, from my version, "And by the rivers upon the bank thereof, on this side and on that side, shall grow all trees for meat, whose leaf shall not fade, neither shall the fruit thereof be consumed. It shall bring forth new fruit according to his months, because their waters, they shall issue out of the sanctuary, and the fruit thereof shall be for meat, and the leaf thereof for medicine." So be aware, if you are talking of that, then medicine and leaves does not qualify you as a witchcraft. It only qualifies you as a person who appreciates nature. The other verse that I want to make reference to is Isaiah chapter 19, verse 7 and through 8. The pepper reeds by the brooks, by the mouth of the brooks, and everything sown by the brooks shall wither, be driven away, and be no more. Their fishes no more. Yes. Let me read verse 6. And they shall turn the rivers far away, and the brooks of defense shall be emptied and dried up, and the reeds and flags shall wither. I come to verse 9. Moreover, they that work in the flags and they that weave networks shall be confounded. Because if we read verse 8, there would be the weed. And so far, so good for that reference. Now back to the hyacinth. I come. Back to the hyacinth, I come. I must sincerely thank you for that research. And of course, how I wished I would have been in that domain. I would have partnered to see it to its logical end. As that goes on, let me just raise a few concerns. Yeah, you've said that the PAH, the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, are lower beneath the surfaces covered by hyacinth as compared to the bare surfaces. And you mentioned the microbial reactions that are taking place probably on that surface to be a catalyst to the absorption and adsorption of the PAH. Could it be that the microbial reactions producing the methane or any other such substances could be a precursor to the absorption of the PAH, or is it merely the coverage? That has been my concern. Then I'm happy that we've moved from disaster to discovery, and from discovery to disease management, especially when it comes to carcinogenics. So thank you, and may you continue in that area. God bless you. Anyone with an issue to raise? Yes?
Okay, thank you very much for the presentations. My question goes to the presenter on water hyacinth. And my concern is on results. How did you come to a conclusion that those elements you found in point A are relatively similar to those found in point B? How did you arrive to that conclusion?
Yeah, and sincerely, I believe Dunga is much more busier than Osiri. I've not been to Osiri, but I've been to Dunga. And Dunga is a beehive of activities. Nobody comes to Kisumu without visiting Dunga. So why the samples at Dunga to be similar to that one of Osiri, that thank you. That is my concern.
Okay, let me begin by thanking the presenter on water hyacinth. Towards the end of the presentation, I think that part of analysis where you mentioned about ANOVA and the t-test, if I'm not wrong. In my idea, I think for somebody reading that may not be able to know whether is the ANOVA the software or a statistic method. However, now that I believe it's a statistical method, the analysis can be either, assuming that it is either one-way or two-way ANOVA analysis method. What are some of the variables in this case that you are going to use? Because when you're using ANOVA, it means you are talking about analysis of variance. And in analysis of variance, perhaps you want to know what are some of the dependence variables and what are some of the independent variables before we talk about how one variable varies from the other. So I think that is the question I can ask. And last but not least, I still really don't understand the real components of this water hyacinth in connection to cancer. And if I can understand that, I think this can be one of the best research of this century, because as we know, cancer, the moment you mention cancer in the world, anybody from every corner of the world will come to you for solution. So in terms of the component of this water hyacinth, though you have it around here, I still don't know, because perhaps because of you have talked about technical terms that may not be familiar to me. Thank you very much as you plan to respond to those.
Yes, the issue of the botanical genomic composition of the water hyacinth, that is critical. Yes.
Allow me to ask one question to Daktari.
Ask Leah.
On water hyacinth, please correct me if I'm wrong, but there is something called acacia cage. In my mother's language, we call it acacia cage, but scientifically it's called Tithonia diversifolia. This plant is also dangerous to other microorganisms, but it's used traditionally to cure stomach aches and we call them the period pains. Scientifically, it's also promising. So my question is, when it comes to water hyacinth, can I just go there, take them, smash them, put them in boiling water, and take a couple of, like a spoon or a glass, so that it can help me reduce the cancer?
The same way we do to Tithonia.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Even if you are struck by what they call in Luya shihoho, that means somebody has done the microchemistry of changing the food substance in your body into poison. Yeah, they do it. There are people so skilled in turning the food that you've already consumed into indigestible one and very toxic. So Tithonia does the rest of the business. So probably if it can go that Tithonia way, we can be very safe. Thank you. We are waiting for somebody else to ask a question or for them to start. Can, now that you have a fleet of questions, can they go over there as fast?
Thank you. I think I don't have much questions. You only asked about the readiness quotient. I think that's a gap pointed out, but from our research you can see the graduates are ready, they have the skills, they have the knowledge and the mindset as per the employer satisfaction, meaning their readiness quotient calculated on those parameters obviously will be higher. Yeah, I think that's my response.
Fine.
If I may think, I have very few questions. So I'll start with how do we accommodate people with disability in virtual reality? So in virtual reality, we can include audio. There's also something called mixed reality. And in mixed reality, we include tactile situations where there is haptic touch, when somebody can wear some gloves that can simulate a certain activity. Then in what we call 7D experiences, for those who have attended such movies, there is what we call 7D experience, where you are immersed in that environment. If you are watching a movie maybe about animals in the savannah, you are immersed in that environment, and if there's some water sprinkling, you will feel like you are in that environment. So for learners with disability, probably that is something that can be invested so that they can be immersed in a certain environment where they can not specifically see or hear, but they can also touch and smell the environment and learn something from it. Then on the question of can skills be transferred practically? Yes, but with some caution. In some cases, mixed reality, virtual reality, or augmented reality can go wrong if it's not well structured, well administered, and well planned. It requires a lot of planning. And in some industry, we currently actually do have something called AR, where somebody far away, as far as Washington, D.C., can just instruct you. You wear some goggles with AR, then you can operate a machine, and it can project where you are supposed to touch, turn, and do everything. It's like they're controlling you from out there, and you can learn a skill through the augmented reality. Then on which specific learning areas did my study cover? It specifically covered on use of GIS tools, including QGIS, desktop GIS, use of the GPS gadget, and also how to use digital soil pH meter, and how to do sampling of various plants in the field. Thank you. I believe I have answered all of them. Thank you.
Thank you once again. It's becoming more interesting and more interesting. Wherever, you see, with research, the most interesting bit with research is that it opens further research areas. And I'm lucky enough that I've even gotten some areas of further research that I will add towards the end of my completion of the paper. Like now somebody, let me start by saying that the three papers that we have done, the presentation here today, went thorough through a panel of good guys who understand research. And then the three of us were picked to come to Kisumu National Polytechnic to do the presentation there, so that the name of the institution, you know, is very key. You don't just bring in paper for presentation. You have to go through them. So these three, the two gentlemen that you are seeing here and me, Atara, a thorough test has been done on the three papers before they were here. It is so interesting that when I was trying to read where I was there, I realized that the cancer cases in Kisumu, in fact, if we have counties which are reading, Kisumu is not one of them. You guys, you might be lucky enough, that's why we might be doing this research. The water hyacinth might be playing a very important role, and you are not aware. In fact, if they are reading cases of cancer, it is other counties like Nairobi. And you see, when you further search on that, you will get that kuna hii wanaitanga spinach. I want you to go and compare the spinach ya Nairobi na ya Kisumu. The one of Nairobi is evergreen compared to the one of Kisumu. Evergreen, yani very attractive. Hata wewe unasema wacha ninunue leo mboga niende kukula. But do you know where that grows? Inapandwa wapi? It is in the sewage lines. That's why it is evergreen. That's why they normally say nothing which is sweeter. Don't always say that this one was sweeter. The sweetness can be having the effects. The soda you take which is so sweet, that's the effect compared na your magic. Oh, let me go to the questions. The questions, I might not remember all of them, but if I forget, please remind me. Let me start with the one of clashing. Please don't clash and take. Because, I don't know, I'm also very good when it comes to apples, but also something, that product must be well tested. Because me, I've not done much on the components of the water hyacinth. You ask me today the components of the water hyacinth, I've not done an analysis on those water hyacinth. I'm just treating this one as a remedy which can reduce those polycyclic aromatic compounds. My concern is on those compounds. And I'm trying to look at, can they, does that reduction? Before I forget some of your questions, I was so much encouraged that you are even carrying the hard copy of the paper to even read for us. Some of us we were having just a soft copy. But that is so encouraging. Now, the concern of the car washes, you see there's competition. And as long as that we are saying that it cannot be near those water sources, like the lake, still there is water land during the heavy rains. So at the end of the day, the agricultural products that we use, did you even know that the pesticides which are being used in this so-called, yes, those things, they also contain those organic hydrocarbons. So when they find their way to the lake, it does not necessarily that those car washers has to be near, then they find themselves there. Through the waterland, then we expect those compounds to be on those water surfaces. The issue of the variety, somebody asked of the variety of the water hyacinth, that one for sincere. I don't know whether we have a variety of the water hyacinth, but I know that we have a water hyacinth. For the varieties, I don't know. Then, what else? There is the issue of variation. Oh, there is a statement I made that the levels in Dunga were relatively the same. There was the word relatively. That word was used there with caution. I didn't say that they are the same. Refer to my slides. They are not the same. In fact, pollution in Dunga is higher than in the introduction bit of it, in the little bit of it that I've just introduced, even in the photos form. Pollution is much higher in Dunga compared to Osiri. So that's why I use the word relatively intentionally. What else? Have I answered all the questions? You know, scientists normally forget questions very fast. Oh yeah, there is the issue of the breakdown. There is the issue of the breakdown of the aromatic hydrocarbons by microorganisms. That one chemically exists. That the microorganisms, they have the potential, the microorganisms like the bacteria, the fungi, the algae, have the potential of reducing those polyaromatic hydrocarbons into less. Note that, into less harmful compounds. Remember, these compounds that I'm handling here, they are carcinogenic in nature. They are able to cause cancer. So those microorganisms in the form of bacteria, the fungi, and algae, they are able to. A very simple question, a very simple interpretation is, these ones, their existence are able to exist in a coverage. Where there is a coverage, the coverage provides very conducive environment for them to exist. So like the water acid might be giving some conditions to favor those microorganisms which are able to break down this the polycyclic hydrocarbons. Very interesting. And you are ready to join me if you are
Benedict,
the area of chemistry.
Benedict is also ready to join you.
Somebody who is in the area of biology is very interesting if he joins me and then we finish that research.
We would also appreciate those who are in engineering like I and Benedict joining you.
Thank you so much. There was the issue of ANOVA. I've just remembered once you have taken that that microphone. And what was the question?
The question
what
is.
Was the question? What's the question? What was the question?
I can repeat.
But I can just, the way I understand ANOVA is that it's a method we use to do what? To determine whether there are significant differences between what? Between the means of either 3 or more groups. I think that's my understanding about that ANOVA. And now, remember, we are going to determine the significance differences in around 3 locations there. Yes, there is this one which is a control, the airport. Automatically, common sense has it that is a pollutant-free area. So that's why I picked it as a control. And then we are using the Dunga and the seal. That's how that one is coming in. And remember, we are comparing, we are just coming up with those compounds, as long as they exist also, their breakdown depends on the structure or the chemical structure or component. So like we are getting the significant differences of those 16. So we are doing a comparison of more than 3 or more. Those are the 16 polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. They are 16 in number. I don't want to go to the chemistry bit of it, of naming them. The names, they are not that pleasant to the audience. Thank you so much.
My main question is, you see, the moment you mention a statistic method, what comes in our mind is the variables that are supposed to be used. So my question was, is this, that what are the specific variables that are going to be analyzed using ANOVA method? Because yes, it is true that after analysis, we are going to get the statistical, whether there's a statistical significance that exists between the said variables. But now, what are these specific variables? And if they exist, which one of them are dependent and which one are the independent variables? Because that will, the moment we know that, automatically gives us a picture of what we expect in the process. Otherwise, if it remains like that, then it's like we are operating in darkness. We don't know what is we are operating in.
So purely the levels are dependent of the coverage. That is the samples beyond the water hyacinth and those ones which are not covered beyond the water hyacinth. I think that's one of them, if I'm in a position to explain that. But if I cannot be explained beyond that, then I'm very sorry.
Maybe to conclude, sir, I think that research, you said that some people looked at it because the people who are looking at it, according to me, maybe they did not look at it well because for a research like this, it must have a very serious conceptual framework. The moment I see a conceptual framework and a statistical method, I cannot question you anymore. But it remains the way it is. I don't really, I start even doubting the people who looked at that paper.
Don't doubt them. They are professionals.
Yeah, I'm just giving an insight so that if it is true, it is a process going, it is I mean, because you said it is undergoing the process of, it's a research in the process. But if you take whatever I'm telling you, I think there will be no gap left as far as the result is concerned. Because you cannot implement a paper like this in terms of research if we don't have a serious conceptual framework and a statistic method like ANOVA that requires you to come up with a significant difference between two or more variables.
Now, this must we all concur that this research is very interesting. Hear how heated the debate is over that. So, of course, we are not dismissing anything. We are only saying this is a very interesting and a gray area. Yes?
Maybe just to help other researchers.
Yes.
Please, when you are comparing, you don't just look at the values and then you say they are relatively similar. You have to do statistical analysis. We have to see that. Where's the p-value? Is there p-value will help us know whether there's a significant difference with the values at Ndunga and the other what? You don't just look at the values and come to a conclusion. We have to see you have to do statistical analysis. Thank you.
It is still very exciting. And you're going...
It is very interesting. This is just preliminary results, and then we are still on. When the paper will be just full, I wish that next time I present it, when it has all those components that have been asked for. Thank you so much.
And please don't forget that there are several varieties of water hyacinths. And then the genomic biological composition of water hyacinth should also be incorporated. If you've had a hands-on touch of water hyacinth, you'll know that it is a good catchment for the growth. It provides an ambient environment for the growth of algae. And if you talked about the microbiomes, then beneath the water hyacinth, there is already room for that. Thank you. Can't we applaud them for that great work? No, I'm learning one thing, yes. That even if another panel sits down, yes, and looks at your paper, yes, there would still be gaps.
Sure.
There would still be gaps.
Sure.
Even if you are awarded PhD, there was a time somebody came here and I was a moderator the same way, yes, and then I was poking holes on her PhD thesis. I say, but why do you question and Professor so-and-so has approved it? No, it is approved insofar as that time is concerned. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. We loved you.
Wow. Thank you so much, the great team. We now invite another big team. We have Dorsile, we have Ernest, and we have Lavender. Kindly take your seats up front, even as we fix the machine and we have the sessions. May I know if there are other presenters who have not registered? Just come up front.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm here to present a research work on the title Beyond Western-Centric AI, specifically developing indigenous African data set for ethical, inclusive, context-aware artificial intelligence. I want to bog your mind a bit before I begin and ask you, are you regular consumers of artificial intelligence, which I believe you are? And are you aware how the data sets that are giving you information that you're using were developed? Do you believe that just a very small percentage of that data originates from your soil, that is Africa? So my research is all about AI, and I believe as IT that there cannot be AI, or AI cannot be truly intelligent if it fails to understand over 1.4 billion Africans and more than 2,000 African languages. So what is the problem? Yes? I'm saying that AI cannot be truly intelligent if it fails to understand over 1.4 billion Africans and more than 2,000 African languages. So as you sit back, reflect about it, and at the end we shall make a judgment. Now, what is my problem statement? AI training data is dominated by Western sources. Africa has got about 1.4 billion people, and within that setup, we have 2,000 plus languages. And we also see severe underrepresentation caused by bias, exclusion. So my research gap is existing works focuses on isolated domains, lack of integrated frameworks, need to connect data sets, governance, and explainability and ethics. The AI that is there, or contemporary artificial intelligence platforms that we use, how are the data that gives us information in those systems inclusive including African contexts? For instance, I have tried many a times to play around with ChatGPT, the most common AI platform that we have around, giving it local language, asking it questions that the common mwananchi knows, asking him traditional African setup lifestyle, but many a times it fails or gives very inappropriate answers. So that is what aroused my curiosity, and I asked myself, are we having data sovereignty, or are we having neocolonialism as far as the use of AI is concerned? So my research questions and objectives are, I want to assess the extent of Africa representation within existing artificial intelligence data sets. I also want to see or to examine the impact of Western-centric data on fairness, inclusivity, and explainability of AI systems. For instance, if you generate an image, ask it to generate an image from the African perspective, the generated image, what comes to your mind? Is it the real picture of the African setup? Or do you have to ask it more than once? Do you have to give it a lot of prompts to come to something close to the reality that is happening in Africa, particularly probably in Kenya, or where we are, Kisumu? So I also want to identify challenges affecting indigenous data set development across Africa. Why haven't they been developed? I also want to propose a policy or develop a framework for creating suitable African data sets, and also to propose a policy and governance strategy for responsible artificial intelligence development across Africa. the research questions: to what extent are African languages, cultures represented within AI datasets? How do Western-centric datasets affect fairness, inclusivity, and artificial intelligence systems? What are the barriers that hinder indigenous African dataset development? What are barring us from also having our own data inculcated in the artificial intelligence systems, so that whenever we use it, we also own it? Then, what framework can support sustainable African dataset ecosystem? And then lastly, which policy intervention can strengthen ethical AI development across Africa? In my literature review, I reviewed past literature on data sovereignty, digital colonialism, ethical AI, explainable AI, indigenous knowledge system, and in my review, I realized that in trying to enrich AI dataset systems, we have people we call researchers, we have university personnel. An example, we have in Africa a group calling themselves Masakane that take African data, take them through the natural language processing system, and help in uploading them in the artificial intelligence systems. We also have another group calling themselves Deep Learning Indaba. They also do their works across Africa, even though I've not seen them in Kenya. I've not heard of their footprints in Kenya. But if you look at the language that they have enlisted as having worked on, looks like in fact, it is a very small percentage compared to the figures I gave you. So that leaves us with a very big gap. And again, in terms of data sovereignty, who has ever heard of a data center in Africa? If you have heard, then it's possibly one that is managed by a tech giant in South Africa, that is by Microsoft. They have an availability zone in South Africa. The big tech giants like Google, like Meta, would rather us use their platform, but do not allow us to own the data. They don't allow our land to carry their data. So, again, if you look at professional annotators, these are people who have been professionally trained to get raw data, to clean it up, to take it through the process of validation, and then to upload it on AI engines to produce or to better train the artificial intelligence system to understand questions, to get responses. These professionals are lacking in Africa. Particularly, we don't have professionals in Kenya. And they are only in Western countries. And in those Western countries, they are not really originally from our motherland. So you'll realize whatever the data that they train, whatever the data that they annotate, is not representing our localized or locally contextualized data and information that we would want in artificial intelligence systems. I've decided to use a mixed method participatory action in the research to come up with or to justify my findings, where I have seen, I took time out to send surveys, and I've also done interviews. I've also done surveys,
2 minutes.
focus groups, and again, other methods of getting data. I've looked at multi-country, multilingual data collection, interviews, and stuff like that in my research. And summarized here is the data telling you how underrepresented we have our information in the system. I may not go through it bit by bit, but it's graphically showing you what Africa is in terms of data sovereignty in the artificial intelligence that we are using. You even heard the other day, there is a survey poll that was done, and Kenya particularly was listed among the top countries that are consuming AI to a very, very big percentage. Now, in my discussion, I've seen or I've realized that Western-centric AI actually limits African representation. Indigenous datasets enable inclusive AI. Decolonizing data strengthen knowledge system. Local language improve AI accessibility. Context-aware AI benefits key sectors. Community ownership enables ethical governance. And African datasets shape equitable AI futures. As I conclude, Western-centric datasets continue to limit artificial intelligence fairness and relevance in Africa. That is for us. Indigenous African datasets are essential for ethical and inclusive artificial intelligence development. Localized data improves AI accuracy, explainability, and contextual understanding. Community ownership and data sovereignty are critical for responsible artificial intelligence. Indigenous datasets can drive innovation, socio-economic development across Africa, and Africa must actively contribute to shape the future of global AI through its own data ecosystem. And as I finish, inclusive data is the foundation of inclusive intelligence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna Cecil. I think this one came out yesterday during the keynote address by Professor Solomon. Thank you. Thank you so much. We now invite, welcome Sister Docile. Karibu.
Good afternoon. I'm Okeno Docile Adongo. I'll be presenting a paper on From Skills to Systems, Leveraging TVET to Strengthen Nutrition Practice for Global Competitiveness in Developing Economies. I'm from St. Joseph's Technical Institute for the Deaf Nyangoma, a trainer, nutrition and dietetics. So, from the background of my review paper, we want to leverage TVET to help us have a skilled nutrition workforce outside there. So the main background is that TVET is a driver of workforce development, industrial growth, system transformation, and nutrition workforce capacity. The principal objective of TVET is training youths and adults, and we are readying them for the labor market. So when you look at the growing economies, we have, they face challenges, especially on health issues, and then we are also having challenges with access and also industrialization. So for my review paper, mostly I want to address the problem of health challenges, and it goes hand in hand with the double burden of malnutrition. So here we are going to look at the non-communicable diseases. So the problem statement, the global food and nutrition sector experienced critical demand for skilled workforce due to the rapid technological adoption, the AI, the rapid technological adoption, need for sustainability and safe food systems. So if we continue to train in the old way, then we'll realize that technology is going to leave us behind. When we look at the safe food systems, the non-communicable diseases mostly come around due to the types of foods that we eat and the lifestyle that we've adapted. So for this review, we are looking at the interconnectivity of three main causes that can be interconnected to help us fight the non-communicable diseases. So the other problem is the fragmented curricula that does not meet nutrition skills in the different areas of learning. So my research objectives, I'm assessing the role of TVET in developing competent nutrition workforce in developing economies, examine how nutrition competencies are integrated in the existing curricula, evaluate the contribution of CBET, innovation and digital learning to improving nutrition practice, analyze challenges that limit effectiveness of TVET systems, and to explore the role of policy frameworks. My study uses a narrative review design whereby I obtained literature and compared literature from the main organizations. We have the UNESCO, WHO, FAO, ILO, and the World Bank. So the design was considered appropriate because of the intersection between TVET, nutrition workforce, food systems, and global competitiveness. So that's the conceptual framework. From TVET to skills development, to nutrition practice, to the food systems, and now we want to achieve a global competitive environment. So as I said, TVET's key role is providing its trainees, where I highlighted that training both youths and adults. We are giving them competent skills. We are also giving them the soft skills that can enable them adapt to the work environment and even to the changing technologies. So the competency areas that the TVET curriculum looks into, we have the nutrition assessment, food production, food safety, community nutrition, dietetics, and food innovation. Through skills-oriented training, TVET can contribute to strengthening human capital and improving productivity across the health and food sectors. So this can be done through the competency-based education and lifelong learning pathways, where we are having skills acquisition, professional upgrading, and reskilling. So through the TVET sector, as TVET has adapted the CBET curriculum, it means that we are building more on aspects of technical skills. Apart from the technical skills, we are also working on soft skills that will help us achieve the professional worker behavior. For example, can a student have the right attitudes and the right behaviors for the workplace? And we are also reskilling. Reskilling simply means that if somebody is in the work environment, they can still come back and advance on their skills. This is due to the fact that I've said that we are having changing technologies and also the changing in the field of work. So in the nutrition practice in the food systems, we are having nutrition practice in different areas. For example, we can have nutrition skills being applied in the clinical roles. So here we've imparted our trainees with skills where they can apply in the clinical roles. Under the clinical roles, we realize that the non-communicable diseases have really caused a burden to our health sector. For example, we're being told that more than half the hospital admissions are caused by the non-communicable diseases, that is hypertension, the CVDs, cardiovascular diseases, we're having diabetes and the others. So if we can equip our trainees with the right skills that are required to help prevent, remember nutrition, we are trying to prevent before we even manage. So if we can prevent these diseases, then it can have a positive impact to the entire community. Then we also have community nutrition, whereby if we impart the right skills into our trainees, they can still go out there and work with the community. In the community, we are going to do community sensitization on nutrition. We can work on things like the mother-child health to prevent and treat expectant mothers and the newborns. And we can also work on community nutrition through the school feeding program. That one will be targeting the children, and we are trying to prevent the micronutrient deficiency and also the stunting rates. Also, nutrition skills can be applied in the food industry. So in the food industry, we are focusing on the processing sector. And in the processing sector, we realize that if we are talking of the non-communicable diseases, contributing factor, I've talked of lifestyle and also the kind and variety of food that we eat. So if the right nutrition skills are applied in the food industry, then I believe that you are able to focus or even combat some of the food challenges that we have. So there's a gap for workforce that we are trying to strengthen because of the limited practical exposure, weak integration into vocational disciplines, and then the labor market mismatch. So when we are talking of curriculum integration, I was saying that we are trying to create interconnectivity between three main programs in the TVET sector. That is nutrition, agriculture, hospitality, and the community health courses. So if we are creating curriculum integration, it means that these three programs of learning should be interconnected so that we are able to fight the rising burden of malnutrition. For example, incorporation of nutrition knowledge, practical and competency into vocational training programs should cut across various sectors. In many developing economies, nutrition education has been confined to health sciences, limiting opportunity for broader workforce engagement in nutrition-sensitive development. And also, the increasing complexity of food system requires nutrition competencies. The other one I've said, we are building competency in agriculture, hospitality, food technology, and healthcare system. So under hospitality program, remember the hospitality group are the people that handle our food. They're the people that prepare for us meal plans. When you walk out there and you want to eat and you remember that you have to go to a hotel, then we are focusing on the hospitality trainees. So here we are asking ourselves, are the hospitality trainees equipped with the right nutrition skills? Remember, if you're sick, let's say you have diabetes, you have hypertension, you have a CVD, you'll remember, you'll hear a diabetic patient saying, I'm literally quoting that, mimi sikulangi nje. It means that if I'm leaving the house, I have to carry my packed food. But if we had trainees in the hospitality industries,
2 minutes,
equipped with these skills, then it means that we'll do our meal plan and provide meals for our special, our nutrient-restricted diet for these individuals. In agriculture, the trainees should be equipped with skills on food security, sustainable production, and crop diversification. The same thing, integrating nutrition into agriculture helps learners understand that relationship between food and dietary, plus the health outcomes. So how does competency-based training contribute to nutrition skills? When we should be teaching about food safety across the three programs, diet planning principles should cut across, food processing should cut across, nutrition assessment the same, and also entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship will help these trainees when they get out there, they are able to employ themselves or even start things that are able to help. So work-based learning is still under competency-based training that will be able to impart our trainees with the skills. The same to those digital innovations and AI. We are trying to, if we cannot take trainees to their hospital visits or to the community, we can use the digital innovations. We can have an AI-generated patient that the trainee can manage through so that we build on their technical skills and help them. Then what are the challenges and barriers of building strong nutrition skills? First, I've talked of fragmented curricula, whereby you find that probably the agricultural sector are just teaching on nutrition, but they don't grasp the real skills that are required for the field. The same to the hospitality department. Then you're having funding constraints. If trainees need to have practical skills, Apart from simulations, they need to go to the hospital, they need to go to the community and the food industries and the others. So if we are having funding constraints, then this might not be possible. Then we have weak industry linkages and inequality. Inequality can be in terms of gender inequality, in terms of social aspects, and also industrial linkages. We might not be able to meet the right industries that we want to work with. Then for global competitiveness, our trainees should be able to have future skills. They should be able to adapt to the changing environments and technology. They should be innovative. They should be entrepreneurship-minded. And there should also be quality assurance in the type of training and units and courses that we offer. Policy implementation, policy implications, it means that we must have curriculum reforms and investment. There must be public-private partnerships. There must be nutrition-sensitive strategies cutting across health, agriculture, and the education sectors. Then we must scale successful models that have proven to work. Future research should be on impact evaluation. We should also research on digital transformation, examine the effectiveness, accessibility, and sustainability of the AI and the e-learning. Then inclusion and financing mechanism and policy implementation. Key recommendations, there's need to strengthen public-private partnerships. There's need to modernize the curricula so that the three main areas that help in combating the burden of malnutrition can be interrelated. Then we should also expand digital learning and improve access to both education and even healthcare. Conclusion, TVET is a strategic platform for strengthening nutrition practice, food systems, and economic competitiveness. And as such, it can help in strengthening the nutrition skills that are required for the outside world. Thank you. Those are the references. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that great insight. We now welcome Lavender for the last presentation in that team. The next presenters will be Cecil, Zephania, and Odhiambo. Odhiambo Benedict, kindly liaise with Mr. Elvis so that your gadgets are fixed. Very well, thank you.
Good afternoon. I hope you are well. As the last presentation, my name is Laveda Augoro from the Kisumu National Polytechnic. So my paper is on bridging the transition cliff, developing a neuro-inclusive bridge framework for vocational certification of autistic youth in Kenya. Now, there are key terms there. There is this word, autism spectrum disorder. I know this is something new, but it has been there. Now, autism spectrum disorder is a neurodevelopmental condition characterized by differences in communication, sensory processing, social interaction, and behavioral patterns. Now, what do I mean by communication? People with autism, they might at times fail to communicate like we communicate, like the society would expect someone to communicate. Sensory processing. You may find someone that the shoe that I'm wearing, they are finding it uncomfortable to wear. They find different fabrics of clothes irritating to them. This is where you find a child, they remove their shoes, the socks is uncomfortable, or the sweater is uncomfortable, and different behavioral patterns. So most institutions in Kenya, where we have special needs, we normally cater for the hearing impaired, for the visually impaired. And when you tell someone that maybe you know someone with autism, they tell you to take them to a special school. Probably they'll tell you the Joyland. But these individuals, mostly they don't fit in these special schools. They need inclusive environments. Now we have two terms here. There's neurotypical and neurodivergent. Neurotypical is an individual whose thought process, behavioral patterns, and functioning is agreed by the society. For example, the society expects that when you talk to someone, they respond back. That is neurotypical. Then there is neurodivergent. These individuals, they don't process information like all of us, maybe the society expects us to process information. So that is a societal standard. So I want to take you to work with this an autistic individual. This is someone who maybe the fan that is rotating in a room is causing them a problem, is making them not to concentrate. The light in the room could be an interference to them, and they may respond disruptively. We may not know how they are responding. So I'd like our sound technician to help me just a bit illustration of how an individual in this setup will be.
That goes for you as well.
Just a moment. Can start.
Class, turn to page 38.
Now
chapter
that is
4.
a boy in class. The teacher could be the best teacher of all, and the boy is also a student in that class, but they are not understanding each other. The boy is frustrated. Both of them are processing information differently. So our class setup, or the education setup, wants everyone to process information the same way, and all of the students are put into that kind of category. So this boy, Ishan, we cannot have a special school for such kind of children in one class. They need to learn together with others, and that is an inclusive environment. In the Kenyan educational reform, we have the competency-based curriculum that has tried to solve this problem, and they have developed a developmental curriculum for such kinds of individuals. We have the KILEA, Kenya Intermediate Level Education Assessment. We have the KPLEA, Kenya Pre-Vocational Level Education Assessment. But as you can see, that boy, there are many other boys who may not find it comfortable to fit in a normal class setup. From my research here in Kisumu, we don't have any public school that can accommodate such a kind of a child. And the ones that are there, very few, maybe 2 or 3 that are private. So you find that these learners with autism, they may find it difficult to complete their education. So my problem statement is that these learners, they may find themselves in the formal setup, or they may not fit in the formal setup, but then they age out of the normal education system. But where do they go? When you come here to Kisumu Poly or any TVET institution, you will be asked to get a Standard 8 or KCPE certificate or KCSE certificate. What about those learners who could not fit in a formal education, but they were self-taught, or they learned the skills outside the classroom? So there is an exclusion. They are included in both formal education and also in certification. And My research objective was to explore the systemic barriers that hinder transition of autistic youth from stage-based assessment to formal Kenyan National Qualification Authority, like the artisan level. Also to determine the stakeholders' perception to the effectiveness of our current recognition of prior learning. That is a new tool currently. You find that this RPL, when we assess candidates for recognition of prior learning, there are no systems or environment that can accommodate such learners because the way they communicate is different, the way they perceive or interact with the environment is different. I used mixed method research, that is qualitative and quantitative, where I used questionnaires with Google Forms. And my respondents included parents or guardians of autistic learners and special needs education practitioners and TVET administrators or the RPL coordinators who are the key people in this. So my findings, I divided them into 3 thematic areas. There is the systemic dead end, there is neuro-exclusivity, and then there is economic invisibility. So when asked parents about how it was easy for them to find an inclusive or a sensory-friendly environment, the ranges of answers were from very difficult to difficult. Actually, they could not find an inclusive environment for their children. Then there is a systemic dead end. Transitioning to a formal college or employment, we have respondents, they have not transitioned, and some of them are at home. So there is also economic exclusivity that was inspired from the responses, from the open-ended questions from the respondents. That included lack of support from community or schools. There was the need for
2 minutes.
There was most of the people involved felt discriminated, or there's some kind of discrimination on the way these individuals respond or on the way they behave. So my proposal on was to propose a neuro-inclusive bridge framework where the KNQF align the certification, that is the KP layer and the KV layer, so that these individuals, when they come here, they are accepted with their assessment or the reports that they have. Also under recognition of prior learning, that will include video-based demonstration. We have digital portfolios. We have sensory neutral assessment centers where we accommodate their needs. For example, if they are disrupted if the noise is too much for them, they may react differently. There is a lot of distraction in school, a lot of people. We can build for them a safe space so that they feel free to be involved like the rest. And then there is industry-linked bridge internships. So these approaches will allow autistic learners to demonstrate competencies without being penalized for their differences in communication styles or sensory processing. Then we can create a transition hubs in any TVET of choice, can be the Kisumu National Polytechnic or any that has a hub that can accommodate these learners. Because these learners, for them to learn a skill, it normally takes a lot of effort and takes a lot of money. And that means if we have an individual that is talented and skilled and they cannot be certified, then that is a wasted talent. So my parting shot is that skills without certificates are invisible. Let's make every talent count. And also, some individuals with autism are some of the people that have thrived in the industries and that have made inventions and discoveries. like the Albert Einstein. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Lavender, for that. I know through my fellow MC would request the next set to allow us buttress a bit so that we clear all the presentations in the next 30 or 40 minutes. Thank you very much. We welcome the guest. I know that is not my preserve, but we are happy. Madam Lavender, I hope I'm not that teacher. I hope I'm not that teacher who was shouting at, the autistic child. The experience that I had some months ago was that I was moving towards Osiri, where my friend did his research. And as I moved along the road, I met I hope that is a house worker who had gone to collect a child from school. As the three walked together, and then she was tagging this little lad to follow her, the lad started now clapping her and biting her. But when I turned to him, he was ready to follow me and never wanted to depart again. So I've realized that to handle such autistic cases, it requires tact and talent. Did you investigate to find the causes of autism? That is my question number one. Then, through my interaction and experience, I've been told that the overuse of cellular phones at a young age can also interrupt not only the communication ability, but the emotional imbalance of the young person. Probably you may need to visit that area. Thank you, Madam Lavender, for that presentation. To our daughter, the nutritionist, food scientist. Yeah, food scientist. Yes, I appreciated your work and the entire presentation. But my concern is, in your own view, in which department should we have nutrition and dietetics, food technology, or hospitality? What is your view? What is your view? Because as we speak, in our institution, in which department is food technology? What? Applied science. Then nutrition and dietetics, I hope also in the applied science. But then come to the issue about the real nutrition, the real cook. The real cook. Yes, so from your own view, how should we group these departments? That is my take over that. I like the way you've given us a new paradigm. And I wanted some of us, now that we have a representation of some languages here, for any of us to ask AI, which language what term would you like them to ask?
Possibly just get to AI and those are basics. As I said earlier, African data set is underrepresented. It is not giving us what we want. What is there is just like a demo. In tech, we call it MVP, minimum viable product. So we want the real thing. Think of it this way. You are at home, you are talking with your guka, your grandpa. They are telling you and you are wondering whether they are your local language, you're wondering whether they are, you know them or you can get their meaning. Those ones are not there in the data sets. And those are they must be there. So think of those words. If you are a Luo, think of those in-depth words and then ask it if it knows that. Thank you.
That is an interesting. We decolonize ourselves from the digital colonialism. Because that, to me, is the issue that is holding us back. Now, we were discussing that matter here yesterday, that when the white Caucasian had the smartphone which had the facial recognition was introduced, it could not discover the other. So for the other person, it was from the digital colonialism. We need to incorporate our own indigenous system. The Chinese have done so. Why must we just be the dumping ground for any issue, either moral or immoral? Audience, you are free to ask. I can see there's a hand over there, a forest of them. We thank you for that presentation.
The paper on AI. And my question is, given that training AI data sets is quite expensive, what is your recommendation, especially in African contexts? Thank you.
Okay, good evening. I think I'll have 3 questions for the first presenter on AI, because it is an interesting topic. So my question is, are you when you say that AI cannot understand the African languages, and we know that African languages are more than 2,000 or 2,000 plus, so are you referring to global language models like the OpenAI that you said, the ChatGPT, or are you including the local model? How do you account for grassroots data collection projects on training AI? Because we know that we are training AI, which are actively solving the low resource data problem. Well, maybe the last question. The issue of misunderstanding these are left by the Western tech companies, and if it is a gap, how do we prevent a new wave of digital by local communities? Because like myself, I'm a graduate of AI training, so I'm training my own model. So how do you solve that? How do you
It appears there are any other questions. Oh, I can see there's one there at the back.
Thank you so much. And my question goes to Madam Lavender on autism. How do society prevent against those children with autism?
Thank you. So the presenters, feel free to present. Whoever wants to start, she can start. Ladies first, but men in front.
Okay, let me start because mine was a small hint. So I was asked on my own view where the following courses or programs should be placed. We have nutrition and dietetics, food technology, and hospitality. So under hospitality, I was focusing on the food and beverage and catering and accommodation. For nutrition, I believe because here, health sciences department, because under nutrition we are trying to prevent diseases, we are trying to manage, and even when you go to I believe it's still in the health science department. Food technology is still in the applied science, while food and beverage and catering still in hospitality. My main challenge about this, you see, like now, before we used to suffer with the burden of undernutrition, stunting, and all that, but now undernutrition has been surpassed. We are now dealing with issues of nutrition, obesity, diabetes, the CVDs. So if hospitality, food and beverage and catering and accommodation, these are people who directly handle our food. The foods are the things that we are saying they are requirements and meals for people. They are able to help the society fight the burden of non-communicable diseases. Under food technology, these are people that with the food production, food processing. We know that if food is too much processed, then we are going to lack things like fiber. Let's talk of maize. If it's highly processed and you are having the grade 1 maize, then we are losing the fiber content from the non-communicable diseases and the disease burden that we have. So my concern was that about the skill impartation in this department. Let the 3 or 4 departments be interrelated so that they help the health science department.
In view, the departments should be under one umbrella, because the one who is doing food technology does so for the one who is cooking, one who is waiting for the cooked food.
Thank you. I think there are 3 questions here. Causes of what to doctors? They'll tell you that they are still finding the cause, and it's currently rampant. So, Mr. Nyau, touch. And then we have whether the effect of phones affect, yes. If children use phones a lot, it affects how they behave. But I know that it cannot affect their coordination and the way they may behave as the society. The structure of the brain in that much in order to cause autism. And then on stigma, of individuals with autism through awareness. Most of people or most of us are not aware of autism. And most of the times, people with autism are judged, or you may just find someone somewhere who's struggling with a child, and then we'll say that the child is misbehaved. So it's about awareness. Otherwise, without awareness, then we cannot eradicate stigma. Thank you.
Thank you. I would want to respond to a few questions that I was posed to. The first one being about, just like we understand that neocolonialism is with us, right? The same steps we are taking to decolonize ourselves from steps that we're supposed to take to deal with digital colonialism. My friend here has just said that he graduated with AI. Before we get down to making or coming up with our own, we need to understand training model or training data sets or training an AI using data sets. The data sets for training, the data sets that are used for testing, and then now we deploy the AI now to work for us. We cannot do that, so we have to get the first thing right, and that is my main concern. Data sets are missing. Then there is a question on, I got you correctly. You are asking possibly how do we get the training data. This is a collaborative work. I have just mentioned to you that there are two companies currently in Kenya, not in Kenya, in Africa, that are concerned with training of data sets. That is Masakane, and we are just consuming. Kazi yako ni kuweka tu anything on AI and ask it to produce for you a poster, ask it to make African portraits, ask you to. But you don't know if the information that it was trained on is curated to give you the results that you want. Wazungu walifanya hiyo, JCC. He asked about the contemporary models, whether I was referring to the contemporary models, that is ChatGPT today. We have the Cloudy, we have ChatGPT, all the series that are there. We have other platforms that they normally say for scientific research are making use. And by the way, did you know that these AI platforms make exorbitant profits at the end of the year? And their profits are generated from Africa because 1.4 billion users cash. And yet, our data was not used to train them. They don't even own data centers here in Africa. None that I know of. They only come to Africa to sell to us, the consumers of the said systems, and generate income for them. Then there is, how do we account for grassroots training? The other day, about owning a data center in Kenya. The whole process is beginning, it starts with thinking around how do we even have Google, how do we even have Amazon to come and set up a data center in Africa? When that is done, we can talk of collecting data, cleaning it, taking it through the process of training, so that we can also have our own, the one that. And by the way, there is one of our own who has imitated artificial intelligence training and has come up with an AI. It's called Simba AI. That one is done by Dr. Mark Matunga, of the contemporary ones that I'm talking about. He also asked the misunderstanding, where the misunderstanding is coming about in AI. Just like the gap in technology, you find that in the Western countries, technology-wise, they're ahead of us. In Africa, what they used in the 20th century, we are using it in the 21st century, right? Most of the things. And the AI gap is coming from. If you read about the history of AI, you will realize that it is not something that started in the century where we are in. It must have started in 2 or 3 centuries. And today, Africans are consuming what they feel is helping them lessen the work, but they do not know the engines behind it. And we are advised not to put sensitive information on ChatGPT or on any AI platform, whether paid for or not paid for. Do not keep your and stuff like that to generate content. Thank you. If there are no questions, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Let us applaud. We also have AI-generated lies. I know you're aware of that. AI-generated lies. Thank you, thank you. Meanwhile, Benedict and Cecil come and wind up the day for us.
One more question. The AI now it's taking over every AI. Is it 50%, 60%, 70%? What percentage are we talking about at AI at the moment?
Is it, you know, well, he said that we are just fundamentally consumers, 100% consumers.
Yes, in my presentation I said, in consumption, we are about Kenya as top consumers of AI. But in terms of having our data represented, we are barely at 10%. At 10%, with very, very few languages, up to 20 languages in Africa, whereas we have over 2,000 languages in Africa. Remember, we also talk about governance, so many aspects, so many dynamics. So if you are talking about 20%, about 20 languages out of 2,000, you can get. Technically, they brought it for us to use and not to own. Thank you.
Thank you. Let us clap for them. We thank you. Benedict and Cecil, please, you'll just bear with us for some 20 or 30 minutes. We want to wind up the day. We do not want anyone to go back with the materials loaded and not presented. Thank you, and I'm grateful for your patience. Some have been seated down here like Daktari here since morning, cheering it with laughter, and
I'm Cecil Zephania, and I'm a student here doing diploma in applied biology. Before I start, I would like to say that this project observation, and as we all know that simple observation could make a small difference. And that's why I came up with this topic of the comparative evaluation of malaria diagnostic techniques among students attending the Kisumu National Polytechnic. Now, in my introduction, malaria is that is caused by the Plasmodium parasite, and is being transmitted by the infected female Anopheles mosquito. It is the leading cause of morbidity in Africa, rolled out by the WHO and also the CDC in malaria detection. We have the microscopy and the rapid diagnostic technique. And we also have the molecular methods like the PCR. Now, next slide. My Irregular diagnosis lead to misuse of the antimalarial drugs. This come whereby we use the microscopy and the RDT, and at some point, when using the microscopy and the result can also be false positive and false negative. And that's why I came up with this topic. Why do we have the malaria false positives and malaria false negative results? This happens in the local clinic that we are having around, the villages. Like, if, for example, if the pharmacists that we are having and the chemists we are having around, they embraces the use of the RDT, but not proceeding with the confirmatory test using the microscopy. Then compare evaluation of the malaria diagnostic techniques among students attending Kisumu National Polytechnic. And we have the specific objectives to compare the sensitivity between RDT and microscopy, and to compare the specificity between RDT and sensitivity. How am I going to achieve the sensitivity? And how am I going to achieve my specificity between the RDT and the microscopy? Then we have the material study area is Kisumu National Polytechnic. But to me, the reason why I choose to use the 30 sample size is because that when you use the Kushlan's formula, when it comes to the malaria sample size determination in a large population and use a confidence, the sample size tend to be too big for me to handle. It's something like 150, and I cannot handle 150 samples because of the time and duration. The method, the venous onto the outpatient students that will be coming for the treatment in the National Polytechnic, whereby the 2 ml of the blood will be drawn from the patient, will be prepared, and the use of the RDT kit will be used. Now, how am I going to do my assay? I'm going to use here, that's on the slide, PVF. And then we are going to use RDT kit, where we are going to use the 5 microliter to dispense on the RDT oil B, and then observe the result after 20 minutes. Then we interpret. We have the results here. We have the true. The RDT results, you have the true negative. You have 7, and the false negative result, I have 12. And the true positive results, I'm having 9 samples. And the false positive results, it was reported to be negative results recorded. And the true positive result, we have 12. And the false positive result, there was no false positive results recorded by the RDT. Now, the question is, at what point did the RDT kit and the microscope? Now, the question is again, why do we have the false negative results? And when you false negative result in RDT, and when it comes to microscopy, it becomes positive. That is being embraced by the local clinics we are having around. This is because when the parasite density is below the detection threshold, the parasite cannot be detected with using the kit, because the kit involves the antigen-antibody reaction, and when somebody develops histidine-rich protein deletion, the result tends to become negative, malaria, parasite. But when the person is subjected to the test kit using the RDT, the result becomes negative, false positive. The results become false positive. Yet you are false positive result, and yet the person is having clinical symptoms of malaria. As we all know that RDT kit involves, and there's no report showing of why someone could show clinical symptoms of malaria and still tells negative. But I'm here to explain to why we are having false positive results and false negative results. That's why I'm going to put a lot of emphasis on. Results here, total respondents were 36 participants, but only 30 samples were analyzed. 6 were excluded from the study, were non-student. Now, if you look at there, the methodology to detect the true positive results, and the specificity is the ability of this microscope to test the true negative results. And we have the RDT kit, have this 96.6% sensitivity and 98.42 specificity. This data was analyzed using the standard package for social science, using an AI. With all data that you need, and everything will be generated. Then you make it humane. We have the discussion of the result. The overall discussion at 53% equivalent to 12 samples, and microscopy agree only about half of the cases. RDT demonstrated low sensitivity of about 42.46%. This makes RDT unreliable for the ruling out malaria. Then discussion continuation. In this high prevalence setting, 70% positive rate by RET is reasonably trustworthy in that somebody might the result of the person having clinical symptoms of malaria might come out to be negative. But true negative results of the RDT should not be considered as true negative. At some point, the person might also get infected, still has the infection. Then you have specificity is moderately acceptable. Malaria infection confined by microscopy. Then microscopy remain the reliable method in this data set. In my conclusion, microscopy remains the most reliable method. RDT is first useful in resource-limited settings. Microscopy has good sensitivity as compared to RDT. RDT and microscopy for confirmation of malaria cases. When conducting of the larger studies that inquire the more number of the patients that are being enrolled for the study in ruling out of the malaria parasite when it comes to treatment of the true underlying condition. And that's all.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, my topic of presentation is implementation of industry to enhance competency-based education training aimed at maximizing innovative skills that promote resilient economy through job recruitment from the Kisumu National Polytechnic. Employment increasingly demands a prior work experience. TVET graduates often require retraining before joining technology-oriented workplaces. The study investigates integration of Industry 4.0 and 5.0, and industrial competence. The objective of this study is to examine the potential of mixing Industry 4.0 and Industry 5.0 technologies into Kenyan technical institutions to improve employability. Qualitative review approach grounded on secondary data attained from credible academic sources, including institutional reports, Google Scholar, journal articles, and known. Industry 4.0 technologies include IoT, that is Internet of Things, CPS, which stand for Cyber Physical System, that is, we have got SCADA, that is intelligence, and then smart factories, big data, and Internet of Services. Industry 5.0 emphasizes human findings show improved employability, reduced retraining, and economic growth through funding and infrastructure. These technologies are commonly used in industries to enhance product quality, or in other words, integrating Industry 4.0 Industry 5.0 technologies in TVET classroom can improve trainees' employability, reduce retraining costs, and contribute to economic growth through increased opportunities of employment. However, major challenges of implementation include inadequate funding and infrastructure. The study, moreover, found that these challenges can be alleviated through government support, stakeholder partnerships, including continuous professional development for trainers. The successful implementation for small-scale smart factory at the university for this adaptation. Rapid industrial transformation is changing workforce requirements through emerging technologies related 5.0. TVET institutions must align training with emerging technologies to bring the skills gap. The growing demand for technology skilled employees call for a change in training, which has the likelihood to bridge the current skill gap. This study explores the significance of Industry 4.0 and Industry 5.0 in technical training. And TVET graduates face increasingly difficulty in securing employment because many employers require prior work experience and digital industrial skills that graduates often lack. This indicates a mismatch between the competencies taught in technical institutions and the demands of modern workplaces shaped by Industry 4.0 machine collaboration. Their integration into Kenyan TVET training remains limited. In addition, inadequate funding, poor infrastructure, and insufficient as a result, graduates may remain underprepared for the labor market, making it necessary to explore how Industry 4.0 and to improve employability and align training with industry needs. The objectives of the study are the following. One, to examine potential of market demands, and finally to identify implementation challenges and solution. Cyber-physical Industry 4.0 now comprises of things like cyber-physical systems, Internet of Things, robotics, artificial intelligence, big data analytics, cloud computing, acquisition system. That all defines what we mean by Industry 4.0 for somebody who could ask what that means. But what is the difference between that and 5.0? Industry 5.0 personalized production. So which means that our research here is promoting that, on top of the 4.0 industry that you already have, we mix with this aspect of Industry 5.0 so that we can get the perfect mix for equipping our students within the classroom setup. Of digital technologies into manufacturing and industrial systems. Its concept arose from German's industrial transformation agenda and concentrates on automation, cyber-physical analytics, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, robotics, and Internet of Things. The I5.0, on the other hand, is an evolving industrial idea that human beings, different from I 4.0, which concentrates primarily on automation and digitization. The Industry 5.0 prioritizes human-centered, supports the integration of emerging technologies to improve workforce competence. Methodology used: qualitative review, secondary data from journals, conference papers, reports, and Google Scholar sources published mainly between 2017 and 2025 were used. The analysis was this method comprised finding repeated themes, patterns, and ideas related to I4.0 and I5.0, TVET education, employability, implementation challenges, and intervention strategies into meaningful sections that are affiliated to with the study objectives. conceptual framework consists of three things. We have got the outputs, which are the dependent variable. Under inputs, we have got things like the funding, we need the trainers, the infrastructure, the curriculum, and industry partners. Partnerships, I mean. Those are the inputs, which are the independent variables. The process that we need here is the integration of those two technologies. And then finally, the output, which is the defined for those graduates, and finally, reduced retraining, because when we get, when you have graduates who are skilled, then definitely there'll be reduced retraining at the industry level before the employer can be. The conceptual diagram, as you can see, is here. Is simply repeating the same components I've read under conceptual framework. Workplace readiness, innovation, productivity, and support national industrial development. The challenges include inadequate funding, weak infrastructure, trainer competency gaps, outdated curriculum, weak industry linkages, and cybersecurity concerns. Solutions: government funding. We need government funding, trainer retooling. Successful implementation of cyber-physical system, Internet of Things, robotics, SCADA, and AI at the University of Applied Sciences and Arts of Southern Switzerland. Practical learning and industrial readiness. Then that's an example of the smart factory we are talking about, which is already implemented in that particular University of Southern Africa, Arts and Science in Southern Switzerland. You can see. So that shows it is something possible to attain. Conclusions: the rapid advancement of the two technologies has transformed labor market expectations. Cyber-physical system, Internet of Things, supervisory control, data acquisition system, robotic, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and all those have significant potential to transform technical education by improving practical learning experiences and workplace preparedness. Finding also indicates that integrating the two technologies into TVET's institution can help expectations. The challenges of the two technologies include inadequate funding, insufficient technological infrastructure, limited trainer competency, outdated curricula, weak institution. It's not merely an educational improvement initiative, but a strategic necessity for enhancing graduate employability, industrial productivity, innovation, and national. Two, continuous trainer capacity development, curriculum modernization, strengthening industry institution partnership, establishment of smart laboratories, infrastructure. Thank you. Then those are the references.
Thank you very much, Engineer. Let us clap for them. Yes, the I 4.0 and I 5.0 in our curriculum. By the way, the level of industrial revolution is Kenya. Engineer, in which level is this, is Kenya? And which industries in Kenya are compatible with 5.0 industrial revolution? Then to Cecil, thank you for making me aware that I can be falsified malaria dosage of antimalarial. And I think this is the basic ground that has led to the abuse of over-the-counter drugs. That, you know, immediately somebody, can I have some Panadol? Oh, the way I look at it, this must be malaria. Then you go in for metakelfin, for whatever, Fancida, whatever you want to get. And a finding that needs to be replicated elsewhere. I was a little curious about the RDT, and especially when the result is 53%. You know, when it comes to health, a percentage of, so is this 53% a confirmation that the malaria test be authentic? Thank you for giving information about the false malaria. The false malaria. I appreciated your idea of bridging or integrating both the microscopic diagnostics hand in hand with a cardinal aspect which is critical. So, thank you. Could there be anyone with an issue to raise? Yes, medicine here. Okay, fine. Come and pick this. Time is fast spent. We cannot hold. It is unfair.
Hello, I'm equally impressed by the malaria tests, and I didn't know also that I can be negatively diagnosed, but my question goes to, are there ways in which I understand that microscopy needs an experienced person, and by your information, RDT is test. If you are trained, you can just put that strip and it shows that you have malaria or not. My question is, since microscopy seems to be more the AI enthusiasts in this room, could there be a way in which in low-resourced regions where people are not very skilled, where microscopy can to ensure that those blood samples are analyzed and the parasites are detected with high accuracy? Could that be a future, or could it be done, or is it being done? Yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll respond to two issues raised by Mr. Nyawur. You have asked which level of industrial revolution is Kenya right now. Largely, Kenya is largely under fourth industrial revolution, but partially under fifth industrial revolution if you have toward many companies around. Depending on the infrastructure of ICT and that are used to implement the engineering gadgets that they use. So we are partially under, Kenya has partially implemented. We also wanted to know which companies are in that level of fifth industrial revolution. If you go to, there are very few, there are not many. If you match with the transportation of oil from Mombasa to Nairobi, then Kisumu and other parts of the country, you'll find that they're actually using the fifth industrial revolution. They actually have all the aspects that we have mentioned here under the touches fourth and fifth industrial revolution. Same case will apply to the Coca-Cola company, whereby serious industrial processing, serious computing technology have been used to implement or to automate the engineering system that include things like the PLCs, all other type of things, so that engineering systems are not existing in isolation, but they are being controlled by the computing technologies. Things like the SCADA system is the cybersecurity system, which is still an issue as technology continues to advance. Thank you.
The question that RDT kit at this 53% rate of the test becoming negative, the RDT kit remain an authentic tools when it comes to the malaria detection. I'll answer this question by saying that since malaria has become a life-threatening disease and to be implemented, and RDT is can be used in resource-limited setting, and RDT cannot remain an authentic tool unless true positive results so that the true underlying condition get treated if someone has malaria. Now on the question about can microscopy be combined with the AI when it comes to malaria detection method, where we do the genome sequencing using the PCR. AI can be involved in that method, whereby after dispensing your blood sample into the AI gadget and the PCR, the machine can, we're using the AI, it can detect the species of the parasite and the cycle and the stage of the parasite. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let us appreciate them. Let us appreciate them. We want to thank all the presenters. About 19 papers. We've had 19 papers, and we pray that if there could be any, there would be only 2 or 3 reserved for tomorrow. So thank you very much for your patience. Thank you very much for abiding with us. Jesus Christ, I would wish to call upon one of our guests to lead us in a word of prayer as we dismiss. Meanwhile, we'll be assembling here, for the PAs would be around by that time. And that is a reminder to some of us who do not wake up very early, leave their houses not so early. So my brother from the neighbor to Ndenga, Benedict, do you have anything? And this is also inclusivity.
Okay, may we rise, bow down our heads as we pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for your guidance, wisdom, and presence through discussions held and the fellowship we have enjoyed. As we depart, help us to apply what we have learned for the benefit of our respective institution. Grant us success in our endeavors, and we strengthen as we carry out our responsibilities. May your blessings be upon each of our participants, their families, and their work. Continue to guide us, give you all the glory. It is in Jesus' name we do believe as we pray.
Amen. And may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God the Father, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit. Us all say, Amen.